So this is poster board. I traced over the plans and used carbon paper to trace these out. Then I cut them out with scissors. These are all the fittings that I need to make for the wings. That includes the fittings that go at the roots of the wings that hold the wings to the airplane, and the fittings, actually there is the little square one for the compression tubes, which I don't have shown here. That's just 2 inches square, so I didn't even trace one out for that. And some of these go on the outboard part of the wings and connect the two wings together via the interplane strut. That strut bolts to these, and also the wires go on some of these. So, and I've got the quantity for these, for those, for 8 of these. These are the fittings that go on the rear spars to connect the wings to the plane. 4 of these and 4 of those. One tip I saw someone give was to spray paint the aluminum with layout fluid, something like this. And the camera won't focus. Dykem blue. I don't have a spray can of it, so my plan is just to trace around each of these with a pencil, and then move that, and then just, there's a little brush that dips in there that's connected to the cap, and just paint over that line with the Dykem blue. Then put this back and use a center punch or a scratch awl or something like that to trace in the Dykem blue. That way the line should be really obvious, so I don't waste a bunch of it. There's no reason to paint the whole sheet unless you had a spray can. So I'll just paint around my line and then scratch on top of the line, and then I'll cut around that line, just outside of the line, with my cheapo bandsaw and my bimetal blade. And then I'll use the belt sander to get down to that line. Oops. So actually I just used a nail, and that works just fine. Just set this over the Dykem blue outline and traced around it, and I'll just cut close to it but outside of it on the bandsaw, and then I can do all the cleanup on the oscillating belt sander. And I'll do 4 of those. So I actually scratched around a bunch of parts without using the Dykem blue, and I think that may work just fine. These lines are really visible to me, so I'm going to give it a shot at least. So what I'm going to start out by doing is just try to cut straight across here so I have a smaller piece to work with, and then I can feed this through the bandsaw and hopefully feed around some of these curves. We'll see how that goes. And I've got a narrower blade that I may try. This is the one that's on there is 3/8. This one's 1/4, so it'll do curves a little better. But I'm not sure how it'll do with the aluminum. And that one does great with the aluminum. So we'll see how it goes here. So I've got a metal blade on the jigsaw here. It's a different one than I had the other day. It's the 118G, I think is what it is. And my bandsaw is kind of small, so I can't cut across here. The throat's too small. This won't fit through there. So I'll cut around here with the jigsaw, and I may cut through the center of it so I have a couple smaller pieces, and then try the bandsaw. Just once I've got this into a few pieces that'll fit in my bandsaw there. So I'm just gonna cut real wide here. Probably stay a 1/2 inch away from the lines. so leave myself plenty of wiggle room. I'm going to put some hearing protection on because that's a little bit loud. And I'm going to use some of the oscillating motion that this jigsaw can have, just so it's a little more aggressive cut. Now it's cutting a little faster since I introduced some oscillation there. A little smaller piece to work with, and I'm wearing eye protection too. You don't want little teeny tiny metal fragments going into your eyeballs. So I thought I might have to use the jigsaw to cut that big chunk into 2 smaller chunks so I could finish it on the bandsaw here, but I managed to take cuts from all different sides and do some shallow turns with this 3/8 inch blade and get all the individual brackets cut out into their rough shapes. And I made some weapons while doing so. Anywho, I just have all the individual pieces now, all the individual brackets, the ones I traced so far, which is maybe a third of the total, or a quarter of the total. So now that I've got these individual pieces, I'll try to cut closer to the lines on all of them with the bandsaw, and maybe for the tight turns I'll try that 1/4 inch blade and see how that works. One other thing, the guide bearings you should have as low as you can get, just for the best support of the blade. And since I'm cutting thin material here, 1/8 inch, I can get it quite low. I had it up here before and I wasn't getting as much support, and this might help me cut turns a little bit tighter with this wide blade. And you just adjust that back here on the Ryobi. So I lowered that, got it down a little bit closer. So I managed to do that with the wide blade. On the bandsaw it's pretty quick, that was maybe 2 minutes. So pretty easy to get close. Something that's a little trickier could be these inside corners. Now what you can do if the blade won't turn tight enough, you can simply make multiple cuts in like this and just nibble away at it with the blade. It can actually turn a little bit tighter that way, and you can, if it won't turn tight enough, you can even just cut each little piece off one at a time just by cutting curves in like that. So I may do that, or I may try that narrower blade. So it should go pretty quick. I'm done cutting out all the brackets. Probably took, I don't know, an hour or two, probably a couple hours. I used the 3/8 inch blade and the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch blade. I had to use the 1/4 inch blade for some of the tight turns. I just couldn't do it with the 3/8. Of course, you might do it differently. The jigsaw, I think, would do all this just fine as well, but I think the bandsaw is probably easier. So there they all are, rough and ready to be drilled and sanded.